Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our ongoing series of webinars. And today we're going to be continuing to talk about careers in the trades. And I want to start by thanking Ohio College Tech Prep for the partnership in helping us to record these videos. And I'm Cassie Barlow. I'm the president of the Strategic Ohio Council for Higher Education. And today we are lucky to have with us Shaun from Garber Electric. And he is going to be talking specifically to us today about human resources and how he attracts new tradesmen to his company and what he does to try to retain tradespeople in his company as well. So Shaun, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, we will jump right in. And if you could talk to us a little bit about what is it that a human resources director in the trades does? What is your job and how does it relate to the success of your company?
Sure. So my job specifically is a human resource director, like was said, and basically I take care of anything that is employee relations with the company, or some companies will call them employee partners or things like that. The human resource director is the one that finds employees, tries to retain the employees, and also creates the benefit packages for them, and takes care of all the health insurance and all of the ancillary benefits, such as the little things of AFLAC, things like that, dental insurance. We prepare all those packages for new candidates that come into Garber Electrical Contractors. It relates a lot to our success by if we don't have the people, we're not be able to install the products that we have in the buildings and residential homes and all those places that we work. The trades is for a long period of time has been one that is lagging, I think, in getting good quality candidates and people into the trades. And that's another thing that I have to do. I go into schools and teach about what the trades are and how you can have a great living in the trades, actually without going to college. And most of the trades, with electrical, plumbing, even HVAC, a lot of companies will actually pay for the education to be able to get a journeyman's license in that.
Well, fantastic. And we're going to dive a little bit more into that, into some of those topics here in the next few slides. So what does a typical day look like for a human resources director? What are some of the things that you do throughout the day?
It's going to be different depending on the business that you're with and what your structure is. But for me personally and for Garber Electrical Contractors, the typical day is I'm first thing I'm looking at resumes, any applications that have come in, and then giving to the human resource assistant to set up interviews, constantly getting with marketing about social media and pushing things out on us hiring and looking for candidates constantly. That's the first part of the day typically. And then it rolls into a lot of interviews throughout the day. And then also anything, situations and issues that may arise as far as personnel. Sometimes we have some challenges that we have to deal with. And that's a big job of mine to make sure that I'm the conscious of the company. And so that is a large part of my day also. You put out a lot of fires as an HR director all day long, which is fun to me, and I thrive off of that.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you're a multitasker too. I mean, it sounds like you've got lots of different things going on at the same time, which some people really thrive in that environment. And it sounds like you're one of them.
Yeah, yeah. As an HR director, you have to be able to multitask. You could have somebody in front, phone ringing, text messages going off, and you gotta be able to triage a lot of things within the opportunities that you have coming at you.
So how many years have you been working for Garber Electric and in this in the trade, in the industry of the trades, just in general?
Sure. So out of high school, I started out in construction, and I was in construction for about 4 or 5 years, and then went into management's what I went into after that. Specifically as an HR director, I've been with Garber Electric 6 years, and as the HR director, and I've been in HR for 7. Specifically as the HR title. Now, as a manager and some things that I did previously, they really didn't have HR. They didn't have HR directors, so you were everything. So I learned a lot of it there, and then decided to go back to college and get my to get a degree in organizational management.
Great, great. So perfect example of professional development from within. I love it. Love it. So what's that one thing that gets you out of bed every morning and gets you to work that you really, really love about your job?
It's the people. We have a great culture here. We have a caring, family-oriented culture, and I can't wait to actually get to work to see my second family, I should say. That and the other thing I love the most is seeing people grow and succeed, starting from barely knowing how to use a screwdriver all the way to now they're project managers and they're running $1 million jobs for us, and that's a rewarding thing I always look forward to.
That's fantastic. So seeing the success of the people that you hired within the company sounds like a big motivator.
Yes.
So tell us from you talked a little bit about your day, but how much of that is spent, working issues, in your office compared to being in meetings or working with groups?
Mhm. Typically, I'm in probably 2 hours a day, specifically in meetings, typically. Um, but and then working in groups, I would say a couple hours a week, really, as big groups. But I constantly have meetings. My door's open, so I'm always having people coming in and asking for advice and me. There's a lot of meetings in the HR side that you have all day long. So it's kind of hard to put an exact number to it, but
Right.
minimum 2 hours a day.
And it sounds like it's a variety of different formats. I mean, some of those
Yeah.
meetings might be one-on-one or two on, I mean, it just kind of just sounds like it depends on the day and on the issue that you're working through.
Mhm.
So what's the biggest challenge within your job right now?
The biggest challenge right now is finding qualified candidates in the electrical trade. That's the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge would be the retention part.
Okay.
To that right now, I mean, everybody's hearing of the Great Resignation, and we've been fortunate. It hasn't been that bad for us, and I think it's because of our family and our culture that we have here. But finding we have plenty of work. We just don't have a lot, workers to put it all in, to be honest with you.
Right. Right. And that seems to be the same thing that we're hearing from others as well.
Hmm.
So what kind of work environment do you primarily work in? It sounds like based on what you said, it's primarily office environment, but do you have a shop floor that you spend time on or?
Yeah, it's primarily office, but I do go out and visit job sites here and there, which would be the construction side. And then we also have a warehouse across the street that houses all of our products, and we have equipment going in and out. I visit that regularly too, because that's where a lot of our workers will go
Mhm.
in the morning and in the late afternoons on their way home. They'll stop by there too, and I always like to chat with them.
Awesome. Awesome. So lots of variety there as well in terms of work environment, it sounds like. So do you have any on-call work in your in your current job?
So for HR, I'm always on call. For our electricians, they do rotate. Yeah, it's about every 6 to 8 weeks they would be on call. But they're paid pretty well to be on call. Um, just for answering a call, they'll get paid for that. And if they go on to the job, I think it's minimum double time that they'll end up getting, on
Okay,
the after hours calls.
great. So you talked a little bit about the education. Let's say you're a student a high school student who's thinking about going into human resources. What type of education would you recommend for them?
Yeah, for human resource director, you definitely would need a 4 year, at least a 4 year degree, either organizational management or directly in the human resource management concentration. I would suggest definitely at least minimum getting your HR certificate, whether you can get them from community colleges or you can go, through SHRM and things like that. That would be the minimum. And then after that, it's trying to find, just an HR generalist role and working your way up into the director position.
Okay. Okay. So education and experience, very important, it sounds like, on the way to HR director.
Mhm.
So when you're bringing a new person, into your department, what are you looking for? What does that candidate need?
Sure. For a HR candidate, depends on the position that we're hiring for. If it's an HR manager, minimum, they would need at least an associate's degree with a concentration in either business management or HR management, and then experience with that. Or we would hire a 4 year degree concentration in HR management for the HR
Okay.
manager position. For an assistant, we look for at least associate's degree for an assistant too. Could be business management, and for a generalist, it would be the same too, minimum.
Okay. Okay, great. So when you're hiring that new employee, what is that skill that you value most? What are you looking for?
Mhm. So experience is always the skill that you look for the most, but work ethic, digging into what is their work ethic like? How much um, time are they spending with communicating with people? Communication is probably one of the most versatile skills that you can have, especially in the HR role, and how they're communicating with me in an interview. I can pretty much tell, how they're going to communicate quickly with everyone out in the field. So that's the one I value the most is communication and work ethic, I would say.
Okay. Okay, great. So what kind of advice, you've got a student who approaches you and says, hey, I'm thinking about one day, getting into the human resources realm and would love to be a director. What kind of advice would you give them?
Make sure you love people and you love dealing with people and opportunities that arise. Some people will call them problems, but they are opportunities that we can walk everyone through. You got to have a thick skin to work in the HR field, and you also have to be political. You have to, you're representing the hourly and the salary, and you got to be able to bring those two together and basically work out issues and problems that may arise. So you're doing a lot of mediation. You got to be a mediator.
Mhm. And it sounds like there's a bit of savviness required, to understand those different roles, when you're in those different roles and what's most important at the time.
Yeah, and one other thing I think um, I see a lot of HR directors fails. They don't have a business sense, and you do have to have a business sense to be successful in the HR field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's think about when a teacher or a guidance counselor has the same, they're talking to a student. What do you want them to say to a student about getting into the HR business?
Mhm. The first thing is make sure that they job shadow someone in the HR field before even going, deciding that's what you want to do in college.
Mhm.
I've made the mistake, and I know many have made the mistake of taking classes that was not needed because we changed directions, and many of it is most of the time it's because we didn't job shadow, we didn't sit down with someone, we just thought, or we took a test saying that you might be good in this area. So that would be the first thing is to make sure that someone sits down and job shadows with an HR director or HR manager, um, and then laying out the pathway for that student in the HR field. And I would encourage that guidance counselor to speak to someone in that field and what that would look like and what mistakes were made maybe from their education or anything like that.
That's fantastic advice. Love it. Make sure the student has a good idea of what it is before
Mhm.
they dive in. And you mentioned pathways. Um, so what would be that typical career path? So let's say you're fresh out of a 2-year program. What's
Mhm.
your career path?
Yeah, so if you're fresh out 2 year, you would go to an HR assistant or generalist is what you would look for, and spend some time in that area. And so your HR assistants and generalists, depends on the job description in the company. They're never exactly alike. You're doing a lot of administration work. You're learning about the business. You're learning how to um, manage the 401k accounts and manage broke. You deal with a lot of brokers and a lot of new enrollments, new plans that are coming, increases that you could get, all those things you would be dealing with right away and learning how to negotiate with, the Anthems of the world, the medical mutuals of the world, the United Healthcares. They have a business model too. And so they want to get the most out of you as possible, but you also want to provide the most for your employees. So in those roles, you'll be able to learn how to see how that HR director manages that process.
So from the assistant to what's the
Yeah, so
next?
assistants, generalists, and then it would be the HR manager,
Okay,
and then you would go to the HR director.
perfect. Okay. Okay. So very well designed pathways
Mhm.
in your career in human resources. And it's a matter of experience along the way and education along the way and continuing it sounds like, to professionally develop yourself as
Correct.
well.
Mhm.
So for that new person coming right out of a 2-year college, what would be the typical wage to expect?
Yeah, in today's age, it's hard to even put this into a number because it seems like
Yeah.
it's a moving target. Uh,
Yes.
but for us, typically, the bare minimum for an HR assistant or an HR generalist would be around 40 to 42,000 bare minimum,
Okay.
um, and it would go up from there. Um, the HR managers bare minimum would probably be around 52 thousand, and then it would obviously go up from there and whatever experience they might bring to the table.
Okay.
HR director, you're looking usually a minimum of 70 to 75, and then it goes up from there, thousand.
Okay, great. So good opportunity from a wage
Yes.
perspective in the HR business as well. So Shaun, I asked you a bunch of questions, but
Yeah.
I'm sure I missed something. Anything to add about your job
Mhm.
and your pathway and, anything that we missed?
Yeah. I would, so I took the long pathway. I started out in construction, which I think in the end, it did make me a better
Mhm.
HR director. I can understand the construction side and the construction business. And I was in management with retail. So I know how I know and actually manufacturing. So um, I'm well rounded in all that, but I would say um, as early as possible, go ahead and get your education completed at an early age. If you can get your master's, go through through all that process before going out into the world, if you're able to. Um, and if you're not, get into a role that would allow you to be an HR assistant or some kind of administration in business to help you along the way and learn the processes of the business.
Well, fantastic. I want to thank you again for your time today that you've spent with us. Really appreciate it. And shout out to Garber Electric too for giving you the time to do this today. And one more shout out to Ohio College Tech Prep for helping us put these webinars on and get them out to students far and wide, as well as to teachers and counselors. So thanks again, Shaun, for being with us today.
Thank you very much.